the things that happened to you as a child, you had no control over. But as an adult, it's your job to take control over those things. Like to try to fix those things and try to mend those things, try to figure those things out. So, like I'm gonna be honest, like I have never reached my full potential of anything that I could have done because I've lived I'll be honest, like, and nobody knows this about me. I ain't gonna say nobody knows about me. I feel like people figure it out from time to time or whatever. But like, it's just so much that people see in me that I don't see in myself.
These kind of relationships that get disturbed when we don't take the time to know what it is to sing, to know how to get close to the mic again, or to get some singing doesn't make it happen, or maybe.
Welcome to another episode of Tune the Fork. I have with me father, son, writer, poet, eyewear extraordinaire. Let me look, I had to look again. Shade tree weatherman. Life figure outer, Leon's brother. Every time I see you, I think of Leon, man. So, Jeff Johnson, welcome to Tune the Fork, brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I think that might be the longest moniker of names I've ever used, but I had a lot to put out there, man. Especially with the shade tree weatherman.
Yeah, man.
How you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling good.
Good.
How about yourself?
Good, man.
Okay.
Feeling real. I'm excited about the conversation.
Yeah,
we've been talking a lot via DMs, and you've been sharing a lot, bro. And I wanted to thank you for that, as I have in the DMs. When we put this information and these conversations out there, we don't know how it resonates with other people. So for you to, kind of tap in and be like, hey, here's what I'm seeing, here's what is triggering within me, and here's what it's, prompting me to think about differently and have conversations about. I really take that feedback sincerely, man, and appreciate it.
It's important.
So, I gotta start with something first, though.
Okay.
This good morning, and the weatherman dude that be on your IG. Where'd that come from?
I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
I'm not a morning person. So people think it's for everybody else. It's really for me. It's really just me getting into my day. Like trying to put myself in a space, like, okay, I'm going to work or I'm going out here in these streets, so I'm going to do whatever it is I gotta do. Let me get myself together. Let me hype. It's basically just hyping myself up. And I didn't know, had no idea, no clue of like when I don't do it or when I just like, it's not even on my mind. Like it's people that will hit me up and be like, man, what's going on? You ain't, you know what I'm saying? You ain't help me out. You ain't got my day started, man. I ain't see you this morning, like I didn't realize that it meant anything to anybody other than myself. So whenever I'm in that space or whenever I just feel like whoever I don't speak to in my direct circle, or whatever, like this is a chance for me to like, yo, I'm out here. I want you to know that I'm thinking about you, and maybe I haven't spoken to you, but you exist, I exist, and let's get it going.
Is it important for you to let your circle know, man, that's how they impacting you and how they're on your mind?
Yes, very much so. Like just in general. I mean, like I'm a people person or whatever. And when I was just in the Uber, I was having a conversation with Mr. Leonard, and he was like, you seem like you a people person, man. Like you enjoy conversation. I'm just like, just an opportunity for me to learn something about somebody. I might not never see you again, but I'm never gonna forget you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's important because, things happening. And I think it really, really became super apparent to me last year. Hopefully he is not upset when he's saying this, but when Leon had his stroke, I was just like, yo, like we young dudes or whatever. I had another dude that I went to school with Probably like a year older than me, had a heart attack, passed away, never had any health issues or anything. So I'm just like, oh, and I have a homegirl named Tasha. She ended up having brain surgery out of nowhere. So I'm just like, it's important that like, you know, that we, you know, like the time that we're here, that we're letting these people know that we rock with, like I see you, I'm here for you, as much as you're there for me, because it's an interchangeable thing. You know, like I need you as much as you need me. I think you said, God, what is this? I don't want to verbalize it incorrectly. I think you told Life, you was like, I give to you today what I'm gonna need tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's very much important, because I'm like, today might be good, tomorrow might be bad. Today might be good for me, today might be good for you, tomorrow might be bad for you, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, yo, you might need me to be on my up and up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like we both can't be down, you know? Like, so,
Yeah. Because then you gotta find somebody else in the circle who up.
Add, you know, you gotta add a third person, and hopefully they good.
That's one of the things I like about what Dame Dash said. He said he want all his people to have paper, man. So if your circle rich, you ain't gonna never be broke. That's just, and you could be rich in love and encouragement and positivity, and you could tap into those people for the same shit that, you know, as if it's currency, because
it is.
Really, it's a form of currency.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
One of the things in your videos that's dope is the wordplay, man. You a poet and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
So you dropping them. Salutations to the nation. Where'd this word thing come in? In what other ways are you using that?
I mean, I try. Like I really just got into it again. But you know Jamil, like One Love? Yeah. Do you know Rob Brown? Raquel Brown?
Rob Brown?
Yeah. So yeah, so she
Rob.
Yeah.
She had dreads for a long time.
Yes.
Did she cut her hair
I
recently?
believe so.
Shout out to the sister. I can't remember. Yeah.
So she used to I'm trying to figure out what it is now. I don't even know what it is. The places have been so many different places. But she used to do an open mic on 14th and U across the street from the Reeves Center at this spot called Mangoes. And that was like probably the first place I did open mic. Like that's a lie. It's the second place that I did open mic, because I met her at an open mic, which was my first open mic. Caribou Bookstore used to be in PG Plaza, and they had an open mic on Friday. And I had went one time, and she was there. She performed or whatever. And she was like, "Oh, I host this spot." So I was like, "All right, cool." Was super duper scared, super duper nervous. Like a couple of my homies came up, so it was even like more pressure. I'd have preferred to be by myself in that space or whatever, but like it was good to have that support. And that's really, so I'm going on a tangent. Let me bring it back. So how I first started writing, she's married. Hopefully I'm not being disrespectful. There's a chick named Rolanda White. I was in the 7th grade.
Okay.
I wrote her this poem in which I like took some lines from like, it's crazy because like she was like so into Redman. Like she had like this huge crush on Redman or whatever. So I can't even remember what song I took some lyrics from or whatever. And I like wrote this poem and I like gave it to her or whatever. And like, she was like, "This is cool. Like, I still don't want to rock with you, but this is cool." And we ended up like being like really, really good friends or whatever for like a long time. And she was probably like, she probably really put me into music as well. Because like she was so into music. By the way, her older sister used to date Devontae from Jodeci. So I would like see this man, like he would pull up to her house in a white Lamborghini or whatever. This had to be like 93, 92, 93 or whatever. So I just realized that she was so much into music, So I would always try to learn more music. So I get, I was like making her like mixtapes and you know what I'm saying, so forth and so on. Cause I just, but like, yeah, she's probably like the reason that I started writing poetry. I didn't even know I could.
Okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like she was the muse that got me to that space.
Now you're from DC, born and raised.
Yes, sir.
And if you don't hear the brother's dialect, if you don't hear, then you don't know what DC sound
Up
like.
the street, literally.
Around the way.
Around the way.
What was, let me take a step back.
Okay.
Why are you here on Tune the Fort? Why did you think it'd be a good idea for you to come on?
So here's the thing. I didn't think you were saying what you were saying originally. I was just like, I was having a conversation with Leon or whatever, because I was like, I don't even know how I came across the podcast or whatever. It just, the universe, God is good. Like,
All the
it
time.
came across. And like last year was like a rough year for me. I think it was rough for a lot of people. Like these last couple of years, like the pandemic and everything, like people, coming and going. Like it's just been a lot for everybody. So I try to like obtain as much information as I can or whatever. So it's crazy because me and my best friend Paul was having a conversation a minute ago. We was talking about relationships and stuff or whatever. And I was just like, yo, no disrespect to anybody. But I was like, yo, these podcasts suck. I was just like, I hear a lot of talking. I don't hear any resolutions. I don't hear anybody. Like, pretty much, it was also a space of, pretty much the podcast was pretty much about three things: music, relationships, and like sports for the most part. And I'm like, a lot of people were talking, but nobody was saying anything. Like there was no heart in these podcasts to me. It was like a whole bunch of people screaming their ideas, their feelings or whatever. I feel like it was more subjective than objective a lot of the times. And I was just like, yo, telling my homeboy, I'm like, yo, we need to do a podcast. But I'm like, and we just kept talking about it or whatever. And I'm like, he had a lot going on, I had a lot going on or whatever. And I'm like, when I saw this, I was like, yo, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm just like, you and Life's, from my perspective, like, your relationship is very much the relationship of me and my best friend Paul, or my relationship of me and Leon. It's like, yo, I literally, it's weird. Like, I've had girlfriends that be like, what, you in a relationship with this nigga? Like, you talk to him more than you talk to me or whatever. And I'm just like, so first of all, like both him and I are both Aquarius. We like 5 days, a year and 5 days apart. And like we're very much similar, but very much not alike as well. We're both very much in touch with like the family aspect of everything. Like I'm an only child. He has a twin sister, whatever. And that's how me and Leon are like great. Like we have a huge group of friends, but both of us are like only children.
Okay.
And like when I was like, yo, you seen this? I was telling Leon, I was like, yo, you seen this podcast? And he was like talking to me like I was dumb, like, man, I didn't watch like, man, 40, 50 episodes or whatever. And I'm like, why, you know what I'm saying? Like, why you ain't tell me? And I think the first one that I watched was like really like current. I think it was the one with you and Terrell.
Okay.
And I watched that, and then I was at home and I just went on, I binge watched, like went on down a rabbit hole, and I was like, yo. Then when I got to going back to like when it was just you and Life talking, I was like, yo, these are really the conversations that me and my homies be having, just trying to figure it out or whatever, the level of vulnerability that we can have with each other.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's sad, because I'm just like, I see you out from time to time or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, we usually just having a good time listening to music. You know, we might be able to talk, but not talking into the extent that we want to.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that there's music going on. It's like trying to like talk at the movies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
So it was just like, okay, cool. So to get back to your original question, I was like, yo, when I was saying it, I was like, yo, I just want the fellas to get together. That's what I was really saying.
Yeah.
Like, I just want the fellas to get together because I'm like, we're all having the same conversation. Like, we're all dealing with the same things.
Yep.
It's different for all of us or whatever, of course. But I'm like, yo, like, this is dope. Like, and I can't say it enough, man. Like, I appreciate this so much, man. Like, I appreciate that you do this so much. Like, you're like, oh, I don't know how many people are listening, but we are listening. Like, it's very important, man. Because I'm like, we getting so much unnecessary information, you know, on a day-to-day basis. And it's like, okay, let's cut through that. Like, let's get to the meat and potatoes of like, what's really going on? Why am I sad? Why am I bothered? Like you said, damn, I thought I was broken this whole time. It's nothing wrong with me. It's really just life. It's really everyday situations that you're just dealing with.
Yeah.
That everybody's dealing with. Just in different manners.
And the only difference I think is is the kind of light that we, you know, shed on it. And I think that's what was real cool about you sharing via the DMs, because, you know, some of the stuff you would just never know. And just watching your videos, good morning, you know, even when you're doing that and you're saying that's for you, like, this is from, like, everybody has their version of self-care and doing the things that they need to do to, like, just get to the next day or whatever. One of the, and the reason why I asked, you know, about like the motivation to come on is because the motivation that I had to invite you was just to take a moment, man, just to learn more about your story. You know, you got some parts of it, bro, that are heavy that I haven't had a conversation with anyone about and connected with and understood, you know, how, you know, their life is impacted by that and how they still, you know, choose to move on and all of that. So, and to also share, give it an opportunity to share with other people, like what perseverance looks like, you know, what tomorrow, what the next day, you know, we all got this other side of the hill that we're climbing. And even when we feel like we're not on the other side, somebody could look at that as at least a glimmer of hope on what it looks like for them personally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I started off by saying you're a father. How many kids do you have?
Biologically, I have 3.
Okay.
But I feel like I had 5. So I say that because my daughter, she's 17. She has an older sister. She'll be 22 this year. And literally, like, she's been in my life since she was 2 years old. We don't have the same relationship that we used to have or whatever, which I'll be honest, probably like saddens me sometimes or whatever, because to be honest, like, in my mind, like, she was like my first child,
right,
or whatever, like my first like real relationship with a child. Like, okay, I gotta protect this person, I gotta talk to this person, I gotta move a certain way, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be this guy anymore, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
because now it's somebody that you're responsible for and somebody who's watching like your every move. So, yes. So yeah, she's 22, and then I have a daughter and 2 sons. So I have a 17-year-old, 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And then my sons, they have a younger brother who's 8. Realistically, that's my son in my mind, or whatever. It's been the cause of issue, to be honest, for a lot of relationships that I've been in, because of how certain people view certain things or whatever. But to be honest, as funny as it is, so he has sickle cell anemia or whatever, and he has like the worst version of it.
the 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay.
And literally, it's funny because like literally him and my son are 1 year and 1 day apart. So my son, this 9, his birthday is May 21st. His birthday is May 22nd. And everybody always thinks they're twins. Everybody's like, oh, how your twins doing? And I'm like, it's funny to me. But to be honest, if my sons watch this interview, they probably be pissed off at me. But honestly, he treats me better than any of my kids.
The 8-year-old.
Yes. Like, that's my guy. I mean, I love them all the same. Like, there's no favoritism, even though my daughter would tell you she's my favorite.
Right.
Or whatever, because that's just what girls do to fathers. But yeah, like, he's just like a very like in tune person. Like they're all like my 9-year-old, he's like, so my 12-year-old, he's like too cool for school. Like he just turned 12 the end of February. And he's like, yo, I don't like my 9-year-old, that's me. When I say that's like my 9-year-old and my daughter, when I say like I see the most of me in them, like my daughter, she's very much into clothing or whatever. Like she has her own style or whatever. But my 12-year-old, like, yo, what you think about this? Nah, like he ain't with it. Like me and my 9-year-old, he'll pick out something and he's just like, yeah, you will wear this. Like, you will wear this. So I'm trying not to get myself in trouble. So we were out shopping. And my son says, he shows me this shirt. And he was like, yeah, my mother's friend has this ugly shirt. Whatever. And I'm like looking at the shirt. He was like, you wouldn't wear it, would you? I said, no. He was like, I know you wouldn't. And it's just like, you know, it's just been around these kids and like, just their perspective is just like hilarious because it's like, you're like, yo, you're 9 years old. And I just think to like, when I was 9 years old, was I thinking like this? Was I just realizing we're in a different time and like, they're exposed to so much more. Like, I feel like when we were growing up, like we were exposed to a lot, but I'm just like, we were also protected in a different way. It's kind of hard to adjust to now because I'm like, you got social media. And I mean, you do have ways to keep your children away from this stuff, but it's like, yo, that's me. Like my son, I'm just trying to, like, my 9-year-old, I'm really just trying to figure out what he wants to do. Cause like, he's like a dreamer. Like my 12-year-old, he's the average 12-year-old black boy. He wants to play sports. He wants to, you know what I'm saying? He wants to get out in the mix and be involved with everything. I had all of them playing football at the same time, right?
Oh, wow.
So the 8 and the 9-year-old, they were playing flag and my son was playing tackle. And I would see my 9-year-old on the field and this man just wouldn't be there. Like,
where would he be?
No, he's on the field, but he's like elsewhere.
Oh.
Yeah, he's just like, and I asked him, I was just like, yo, because at first he didn't want to play at all. But then when the 8-year-old was like, he wanted to play, he was like, oh, okay, I'll play. And the crazy part is he's like both of them are like super stupid fast. And at first we were scared or whatever. Me and their mother were scared or whatever because like I said, he had sickle cell, the 8-year-old had sickle cell. So I didn't know what the situation would be like him playing that level of sport or whatever. Especially I knew that like after flag, he was gonna end up probably playing tackle. And I'm like, you know, he has fragile bones and everything. So, and the doctor was like, nah, get him out there. Like, get him out there. And like, him and my 12-year-old, like they want to play sports and whatever, but like my 9-year-old, he's like, yo, cut some music on. Like he loves to dance. He's like, cut some music on or whatever. And we were over at my friend's house the other day, and she was just like, yo, he know this song? Like, and it's crazy to me because it's like, I try to play as much music. Like my daughter thinks I play the weirdest music ever. Like she's just like, what is this? You know, and this has been forever. But like now it's to the point that now I catch her singing these songs. I'm like, oh, you like that now? Oh, you know, whatever. She's like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you and my mother, y'all have two totally different tastes in music or whatever. She was like, I like your music better. Like don't tell her, but I like your music better. And I'm just like, just trying to give them a space to like, just as we were talking before we started recording, like, to just give them the space to like, you know, have opportunities and learn things that I probably didn't learn in the way that they're learning it because it's just a different time.
So you you dropping the old school.
Oh yeah. So my 12-year-old or whatever, I pretty much started out with him. I'd just be like, yo, grab a record, go over there. And for him, it's like, what cover's the best cover? Like,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, I like this cover. And I'm like, all right, cool. This is how you put it on a record player. These are the grooves. This is the start of the song. This is the end of the song. You know what I'm saying? Just having those conversations or whatever. Like, even in the space of like teaching them time, because my grandfather had bought them watches or whatever. So yeah, he can go 2:46. I'm like, okay, now look at that one with the hands and tell me what time it is or whatever. You know, just things that you probably wouldn't even think that you're teaching these kids, because it's just your everyday narrative or whatever. Like my daughter knowing cursive, because when she got to the 3rd grade, that was the year that they stopped making kids learn how to write cursive.
Okay.
So I'm just like, it's just all these things that us growing up is like normal, and to them, it's like crazy. Like we were at my aunt's house and she still got a rotary phone. And like my son is like, what is this? Like, what do you do? I was like,
Yeah, stick your
8.
finger with a number.
Yeah, I was like, make it happen. He's like this is how y'all, you know what I'm saying? Because he's grown up in a space. Well, you know, he was over my grandparents' house because my aunt lived with my grandparents, and my aunt watched everybody's kids. Like, she's always watched everybody's kids. My great aunt, my grandmother's sister, and like one day he asked me, he was like, but like, what type of phone is that grandma be on? Because he's so used to saying cell phones, and my grandmother and them still have a landline.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's just like, what is it for? You can't take this phone outside? I'm like, no, unless you got a long cord, which we used to have to do and go from room to room. This is it, you know? So I'm like, it's things that I think that's like something that we must continue or whatever, because I'm just like, these children really don't experience the things that we've experienced. And we didn't experience the things that our parents experienced,
Right.
you know? So just trying to keep that alive.
So 5 kids is a lot of kids, bro.
Yeah.
How does that impact your dating situations when you tell women you got
I'm
5
gonna be
kids?
honest, I don't date women that don't have children. It doesn't work. I'm just being honest. I can't speak for anybody else. It might work for other people, but I'm like, I've only been in, it's probably the longest relationship I've ever been in, which I'm no longer in.
What, the one now? Or the one you were in?
The one that I was in. I understood it or whatever. Like, I had to let the relationship go because there were just things that she wanted that, like, there were things that she wanted I can't say that I didn't want. But in the same space, like, again, speaking for myself, not speaking for anyone else, people like being the first. Like, and it was conversations of the one person that I dated didn't have any kids. It was conversations of, oh, well, if we have children, it's not gonna be special to you. It's not gonna mean anything to you. And I was like, that's crazy, because I'm like, literally every time I've had a child, it's a different destination. It's a different journey each time. Like, I can't parent any of these kids the same way or whatever. And I've even had my sons ask me, why do you do that with him and you do this with me? I'm like, because this is the way I have to interact with you. This is the way I have to interact with your sister. The way that I'm like, literally, you got to think about everybody that you interact with. I'm like, it's different for each individual person. Like, you got a younger brother, right? Like, the way that your mom interacts with him versus you, completely different.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll piss us off. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'll be like, well, why do they get this and why do I get that? Because I'm just like, that's the only way that it works. And it's kind of really hard to explain that to them or whatever, or to give them an understanding of that. But I'm like, it's literally the only way it works. Like, if I do it any other way, if I try to parent you like I parent him, you just gonna walk all over me. Like, I can be this lenient with him, I can't be that lenient with you.
So let me make sure I understand. The woman you've been dating was the longest relationship. And she did not have kids.
No.
How long were you dating her?
On and off. It was a whole lot of on and off.
Okay.
It was like on and off for like 6 years.
6 years. Okay.
6 years or whatever. So
she wanted kids.
she did, and I didn't have any problem with that. But like to her, like our relationship did not work in the grand scheme of things because one, there was this disconnect between me, her, and my kids. It was like I was always trying to involve her in what I was doing with my kids, and like it was like almost like those not my kids type of situation. But I'm like, I'm your man, and this is what I come with. So I'm like, every relationship that I've had, either previous to that or post that, it's been people that have children or whatever. Like, it's like, oh, let's go to Africa Tuesday. I'm like, I got my kids this weekend. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, again, everybody selfishly or unselfishly pretty much wants to be like number one in your life. Like everybody. Like they might not say it, but they want to have a level of importance to you that's just, what's the word I'm trying to say? That's just for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna have a relationship with you. You just like I've had friends that be like, no, that ain't your best friend. Like I'm your best friend. You know what I'm saying?
Exclusive.
Like, yeah. Like y'all cool, but that ain't this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, certain people have an idea, whether wrong or right. It's just what's going on in their mind.
So you normally date women with kids, and she was the first woman you dated without kids.
Yes.
What made you want to try that?
It just happened. It wasn't,
Okay. Oh, okay.
It wasn't like I was like, I'm gonna date somebody that ain't got no kids. It's just like we met
But you
each
were
other.
conscious before though. The reason why I said
I'm not gonna even say I'm conscious. It just happened. It's just like pretty much every woman that I met.
Oh, so you weren't deliberately
like,
avoiding women with no
No.
kids. It just never landed
It
like
just
that.
never landed there.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
Like
I
my
got
daughter's
it.
mother.
I got it.
Like before my daughter's mother, I wasn't a parent. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, yes, I was dating women that didn't have any kids, but I'm like, I'm sorry. I did have another relationship after that, that the person didn't have any kids. And she was cool. But unfortunately, like she had some mental issues or whatever, and it just didn't work out. She was going through a lot of stuff and just really wasn't taking care of that part of herself. And I just really felt like, not even just me, like whoever, like she needed to get in control of whatever that was before she was in a relationship, period. And she's cool now. She's married. She moved to Africa. Her and her husband moved to Africa or whatever. Wow. She got 2 beautiful daughters or whatever. Like, it's a beautiful situation. But like, yeah, like after that relationship, I was just like, yeah, I'm like, there's just the expectation. And it's like, I could do whatever I want. Like when you're single or you don't have any responsibilities other than yourself, it's like, yeah, I want to go to Florida next week. I want to go do whatever it is I want to do. Oh, you know, and nobody, like, because when it's a combined partnership, a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, like when you're in a relationship and you have a child or children, it's just easy because you both take on these responsibilities. Mm-hmm. So you're like, well, honey, I want to go to what you call it. And they're like, well, we can't. And they know you can't because that's their responsibility as well.
Yeah.
So when it's not, it's just like, I don't want to hear that.
Do you have any concerns about potentially finding somebody with you know,
No.
Don't okay.
No. I've been talking to somebody. You know, like, it's been going well.
Nice.
It's been going well.
She got kids though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She does. So just, you know, figuring that out or whatever. But I'm like, literally ever since that relationship, I have not dated anyone. The only horrific thing about that is if it doesn't work, I'm a very attached person. And for whatever reason, kids get attached to me. Like, I don't know, it's because, like, unfortunately, like I've been in relationships with women whose children's fathers didn't exist or whatever, or weren't super duper present in those kids' life. So like me and their relationships were cool, but it's also like, hey, you still like my daddy, you know what I'm saying, situation. But you see like what you bring in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Like you're like, oh, okay, you needed this or you need that or whatever. And like, I don't care what anybody says. This is probably gonna be a controversial statement or somebody's gonna be upset with me or whatever, but both parents exist because both parents need to exist. Like, people don't like hearing that, and I understand it. A lot of us have been raised by single moms, single fathers, you know, grandparents, you know, the community. But I'm just like, that it takes a village thing is real.
Yeah.
Like, you need help. Like, it's a necessity.
Are you a relationship dude? You prefer relationships?
I used to be a hoe.
Okay.
I used to be a hoe. So I had to like I had to get myself together or whatever. And like, so the crazy part is when I was young, I was just like, yo, I'm gonna be a husband. Like it was probably on the top of my list before my career, before anything. Like I grew up in a household with my grandparents, my mother's parents. When my grandmother passed away in 2016, her and my grandfather had been married for, I want to say 58 years. And my father's parents, when my father's father died in 14, him and my grandmother had been married for 62 years. So I'm just like, I was around like these long-standing relationships, and trust and believe, those were two totally different relationships or whatever. Like, but I'm just like the love and the commitment and the understanding that was like involved in both of them. Like, I was just like, yo, I don't know how this, it wasn't like I want this, but I want what that looks like for me.
Yeah, your
So I'm just
version
like,
of it.
Yeah. Then I got to a point where I was like, I had friends who was getting married, relationships was falling apart or whatever. And then it got to that space where it's like, oh, I'm an adult. Like, I'm really an adult. Like, I gotta get married or whatever. And I had like women friends that were like getting to an age where they're just like, oh, I don't have any choice at this point. Like, I gotta get married or whatever. So I saw like a lot of relationships come together that never should have come together or whatever, because you just get into that space where you're just like, I gotta do this and I gotta do that because I'm adult and this is what adults do. And it brought me back to, it kind of had me thinking when I was watching, I don't want to say his name wrong, is the last interview that you did. Was it
Billy
Bunton?
Yeah, yeah.
Last name? And he was like pointing. And I'm just like, you know, just trying to figure it out. And I'm just like, we have words, but I'm like, what is the extent of it? Like, what are you saying? You're like, we're living in the space of, I'm at this place, so this is what I have to do now. Like, oh, I'm 30. I'm in my 20s. I'm figuring things out. Oh, I'm 30. Oh, now it's time for me to settle down and, you know, do this. Because I'm just like, these are the things that we've been taught. This is the tradition of what we've come from, or whatever. And it just comes to a space of, I was having a conversation Friday, and I was like, I think it was also something else that you said. I don't know if you said it first or I said it first. I don't know if I heard it from you first or I said it first. But when you said it, I was like, yo, that's dope. You were like, it's not so much about learning, it's also about unlearning. And I'm like, that speaks volumes. Because I'm just like, it's so much stuff that we were taught that we got to get rid of.
Got to get rid of.
Got rid of. Like, it causes generational curses. You know what I'm saying? Like, actually, when I was in the Uber with Mr. Leonard, I was just like, yo, we like, our children are just a reflection of us. And we're a reflection of our parents, and we decide what we're gonna take from it and whatever. It's like playing 2K and building your player or whatever. Like, it works how it works. So it's like, I've had to like unlearn a lot of things or whatever, because unknowingly, what am I trying to say? Unknowingly, we don't even realize that like, okay, say you have a parent that's a drug addict, right? You have a habit too. It might not be drugs, but I'm like, you have something that's inherent of those people or whatever, or that person. So it's like my mother, right? She's gonna kill me. Like, she's a borderline hoarder. Like, she's like, the cusp is like right there.
Okay.
Like, she doesn't like to get rid of anything. And I was just like, I asked myself like literally last week, I was like, do I collect vinyl or do I hoard vinyl? Like, I mean, I love music. I'm gonna continue to buy albums or whatever, but I'm just like, I get this from my mother. Like, and she got it from her mother. Like, now that I think about it, like my grandmother, we used to call like I live with my grandparents, we used to call my grandparents' basement like the thrift store.
Wow.
Because my grandmother would get a new coffee table, and instead of getting rid of that coffee table that was there, it'll just be in the basement, like it's a back room. And I'm like, she's like, no, we'll use it at some other time. And I'm just like, a lot of things are just hard for us to get rid of. So I'm just like, I realized that it might not look exactly the same. The framework might be a little bit different, but we just inherently take on these things. They just might be different.
So let me ask you, you mentioned your mother's parents and your father's parents. You didn't grow up with your parents?
No. Yes and no. They existed, they were around or whatever. But literally, literally my whole life until I was maybe till I was like 19. Yeah, probably I was 19. Like till I was 17. I lived with my grandparents. My father, unfortunately, had a drug issue. He was kind of like in and out of jail a lot. My mother was like literally going above and beyond to try to help him with his drug problem, whatever. And I guess being that they were married, she just didn't want me around it or whatever. Like, she was trying to like save me from seeing it or whatever. So yeah, I lived with my grandparents, I lived with my mother's parents.
When did you move to live with them?
What?
With your grandparents?
We all lived. We all lived with my mother's parents, and then my mother and my father moved out. They got an apartment.
And you stayed with the grandparents?
Yeah. So I was already going to school, and like my mother was just like, oh, it's just easier. Like she had planned on me moving with them or whatever, but it was just like easier for her and my father, like at the time, to like, my grandfather he was still working or whatever, but it was just easier. Like I said, my grandmother's sister, she pretty much watched us all, so she would take us to school. So my mother's father, his cousin or whatever, who's the same age as my mother, she has 2 daughters or whatever. They're like my sisters. And I have another cousin. So I'm just putting a lot together. But my mother's oldest sister was my godmother. Her ex-husband's family lived across the street. Like literally, they all grew up together.
Okay.
So like my cousin Damon or whatever, like we all went to elementary school, and my aunt watched all of us. So it was just an easier situation for us to like galvanize all of us together and take us to school. And then I would go to my parents' house on the weekend, and my mother would like literally get off work and come to the house, and make sure I did all my homework and so forth and so on, and make sure I was doing everything. Like, she was very present in my life. It wasn't like she was invisible. But so I think by the time that she kind of wanted to like move me away from living with my grandparents, that's when my father started doing drugs. And I guess she was just trying to figure it out, like figure out, okay, how do I do this? And this is probably not the best environment for him to be in or for him to see. I don't want him to see his father like this or whatever. And like literally The only reason that I found out that my father was on drugs is because somebody in my classroom told me, because I got in trouble. Father came up to the school, and there's 2 dudes in my classroom or whatever. Both of their mothers were on drugs. And they was like, hey, your father's high like my mother be high. And I'm like, I couldn't, I'm like, what does that mean? And my best friend, so I have two male best friends or whatever. So my best friend, George, that I grew up with or whatever, his brother is actually Leon's best friend or whatever. Their father did with and dabbled with drugs too. And George is basically like, yeah. Like, he's talking about it like your father's on drugs. And I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know. So I end up just staying with my grandparents. And it was just a continuum. And the only reason, literally the only reason that I moved with my mother was literally my 12th grade year, because I was on some BS, doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing, and I got kicked out of my high school.
Okay.
So I was trying to go to another high school that wasn't too far, and they just wouldn't accept me. And my mother was living in Maryland, so literally my 12th grade year was the first year that I ever lived with my mother.
And your dad was at the crib too?
No, they had divorced by then.
Okay.
So they got divorced when I was 14. Yeah.
What was your relationship with your pops like around that time when you moved back in with your moms?
Like I said, he was in and out of jail a lot. So it was just like he was living with his parents or whatever. Like when him and my mother divorced, I think he had went to jail a little bit before that. And like it was crazy. Like I even at this point in this time, like of my father's been deceased since what, 1998. It's like 20 plus years. Even at this point in time, like I knew that, like even at this point in time right now, I know that my mother was like never really over that relationship. Like
Even now?
yeah, like a song will come on the radio. We'll be in the car, a song will come on the radio, or we'll like pass their old apartment and she's like down bad. Like even at this point now, or whatever. And I just feel like it was probably a situation in which she just couldn't take it anymore. You know? Like either you gonna kill me or this gonna kill me, or you know, the situation or whatever. And I remember when my father came home from jail, prison or whatever you wanna call it. Like we would go out or whatever, and again, this is probably gonna piss off some people. So, excuse me if I get emotional. Because I want to say it's a few people that know this story. I don't know if I'm not quite sure if I ever told my mother this story. But me and my father had went to go to the movies. We used to go like right on the DC Maryland line. It used to be $1 movie off of, I want to say, Flower Avenue. And we used to go to $1 movie or whatever. And we left, I want to say I had to be, I don't know, to be honest with you, like those years are a blur. I want to say I might have been 11 or 12, maybe. And I can't remember what we went to go see. Not that it matters. Okay, so we leave the movie theater and my father's like, yo, I gotta stop past my homeboy's house, which I didn't realize meant I'm about to go do some drugs. And I haven't said this to you either. We go to this you know, I'm just like, I know my dad's friends or whatever, you know, whoever's been around or whatever. And like my father kind of kept me away from whatever he pretty much had going on. So I was just like, if you and your pops or you and your mom pull up somewhere and they like, I'm about to go see my friend, they're not about to leave you in the car. Like, you know, Uncle so-and-so or, you know, sister so-and-so or whatever or whoever. Like, you go in the house. My pops was like, stay in the car. So I'm just like, this is weird. And this is like the early 90s, like prime drug town or whatever. And I'm like, this man really like leaving me in this car? Like, it's like the killers and the drug dealers on the corner. I'm just like, people walking, like, this is like prime crack town. So it's like fiends and stuff walking by, whatever. And like time is just like moving. Like it then went from like light to dark outside. So, damn. So I'm in the car and like at this point, I gotta use the bathroom or whatever. I'm just like, damn, like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm not about to pee on myself, but I'm like, I know what to do. So I get out the car, even though I was told, because you know they say you don't get out the car. I get out the car and I lose it because I almost lock myself out the car or whatever, because the one thing that was super duper important to me and my father, our relationship, which is super important to me at this point, is music. Like that was our thing, whatever. So I'm like, well, at least he loves me enough to like leave these keys in the car so I can listen to some music.
All right.
So I'm like about to lock the keys in the car. I like almost slam my hand in the door, whatever, trying to like make sure the door doesn't close. Get the keys out, run into this alley, use the bathroom. It's like two crackheads start fighting and I'm just like, now it's dark. And they're just like, what you doing in the alley? You know what I'm saying? So I'm running to get back in the car. So, to be honest, I have no idea what time it is. I know we leave the movie at probably like 5 o'clock. This is during the summer. Yeah, so at this point, I'm like starving or whatever. I'm like, damn, hungry or whatever. Like, it's been hours since I done ate. Where's this man at? But I'm like, I don't even necessarily know like what building he went into. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not getting out of this car.
Right.
So it's moving forward. This dude kills this dude in front of me. This dude pulls up. I remember it like it was yesterday. So when everybody was driving like the box Jettas or whatever, they would like have Jetta in, or people put their name like in the gold letters on the bottom or whatever.
On the side.
On the side, yeah. With like the BBS rims and everything. And this dude pulls up. Him and this dude get to arguing. He acts like he's getting back in the car. He shoots this dude in the head. Like, this is me in the car. So like, I'm like literally like, I'm just like, oh, like I lay down in the car or whatever, cause I'm like, I think my father's car had tint, but it was like light. So I'm just like hoping nobody like sees me. So I'm like literally looking out the car. This dude is like on the ground, just like leaking. Like everybody just like ran away. And he's probably like from where me to you are or whatever. But like he's like on the other side of the street, laying on the ground. So I'm just like, oh my God, yo, like I'm freaking out. But I'm like, I can't make any noise. I can't, you know, whatever. So literally, my father doesn't come outside because it's a whole goddamn crime scene investigation going outside. So I'm literally outside for hours upon hours. This is a time when there were no cell phones. So my mother just probably thinks I'm with my dad. We're probably out having a great time or whatever. And I'm just like, hours upon hours of like passed or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm like, you know, like a crime scene investigation could be forever. Like, I'm literally just sitting in the car, like, oh my God, like, how long are these people gonna be out there? The police then came, the ambulance then came. Now the detectives out there, they doing the crime scene, now the coroners came. So I'm just like, literally just sit in the car like freaking out. But I'm like, I can't get out the car because then they're gonna be like, did you see what happened? Were you in this car this whole time? And I'm like, just trying to figure out. So hours upon hours go by. Gotta use the bathroom again. And literally, my father gets in the car like nothing, like finally, like they leave. I can't even tell you how long, like police and stuff was still out there. But like they didn't see me in the car. So he gets in the car and he's like, I could tell like he's high out of his mind. And he's just like, yeah, my bad. And like we just drive off. I go home. Like my mother's like, oh, you know, like, what you guys doing? I was like, oh, we just had a good time. Like, I was just like, yeah, I didn't want to get my father in any trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like I recently, I think I did tell my mother. I think I probably told her like, maybe like 10 years ago that happened or whatever. But what happened is, I was hiding it so much that I started having panic attacks. Like, so I was living with my grandparents and like my grandparents were just trying to figure out like, yo, like, what's going on? Is something happening in school? Is somebody bullying you? What's going on? Cause like, and I couldn't, like, I didn't even really have an understanding if that's what was triggering it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why am I freaking out? Then I would like have nightmares about it and, you know what I'm saying? So it was
Did
just,
you associate that with like your dad? Like were those two
synonymous with each other?
Yeah.
To a certain extent. For a long time, yes. Or whatever, like, and like literally like right after that, it was like never really an opportunity for me and him to ever have a conversation about it because like literally right after that, he went to jail. And then like when I would go to see him in prison or whatever, like my mother would be right there. So I'm just like, I couldn't really be like, yo, this is like really bothering me. Like I don't know what to deal with. I don't know how to deal with this, whatever. And you know, coming from a black family, you get to a point where you're around certain things, and you're just like, oh, there's this thing called therapy that I heard about. Maybe I need to go to therapy. But like your grandma and it was like, baby, you just need to pray.
Yeah.
You just need to pray about it or whatever, and you need to figure it out. And I'm just like, I don't think that, like, I think God created, if this God that you say exists, I think he created these therapists for a reason. I think that they exist for a reason. And I think that's something that black people have to get out of the way of.
Yeah.
Like these things exist for a reason. So.
Now, dude, that's, I'm trying to process.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You're a senior in high school when you moved back to your mom's crib.
Yes.
And you had this moment 5-6 years prior to that with your dad. He goes to jail soon after, and you're still processing all of that to whatever degree a teenager can, you know, with all the other
stuff
associated with being with a teenager that you got to process. You don't really feel like you can share with the adults in your life who sounds like would be open to helping in some degree?
Yes, but I guess in my naive mind, I was just like, okay. I'm like, is even at this point or whatever, like as hurtful and traumatic as it is to me, like even still at this point, whatever, because that was literally the second time. So I didn't say it, but that was literally the second time I saw somebody get killed. So I also was dealing with that as well in my mind. So I'm not gonna say I specifically saw the person get killed, but I saw the person like right after they got killed. It was a guy that my mother grew up with, really good guy, or whatever. Just in a bad space, living in a bad space or whatever, but had completely turned his life around. So he lived around the corner from my grandparents. Was like one of the biggest drug dealers in our neighborhood. Let that go. Got away from that. Got a job working at UPS. And the saddest part about, well, I can't even say that's the saddest part. The saddest part was him losing his life. But one of the most things that bothered me about that situation is that this was like, I want to say it was like a Wednesday or Thursday. I want to say a Wednesday that he got killed. He was supposed to get married that Saturday. And it was just like a lot for me to ingest or whatever, because I saw this man change his whole life around. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, and for a long time that made me like, look at God or whoever, like, you gave this man the opportunity to change his whole life around. And it made me question like God and anything that made sense. Cause I'm just like, this man completely changed his life around and became exactly who we thought who he should be and who he could be. Found the love of his life. Yeah. Or whatever. And like, the crazy part is like, they weren't even trying to kill him. They were trying to kill his uncle. And his uncle, I guess whoever called his uncle to come outside, because like, it was like a drive-by. So I guess somebody called his uncle, whoever he was dealing with, like selling drugs with, because his uncle was still selling drugs. So I guess whoever he called, when he was coming out the door, he was Dwayne, that's his name. He was outside washing his car, whatever. Remember, like yesterday he had a white Datsun 300ZX, or it might have been a 280. Like, it was like my favorite car for the longest time. But anyway, like he would be outside, he would get off work, wash his car, or whatever, like it was just like his prized possession. Mm-hmm. I guess like the one thing that he had left from the dope game, or whatever. And he was just outside washing his car. And I just remember, you know, like getting to the way that me and my friends walked home. My mother and my grandmother used to be pissed about, because there were like 6 or 7 of us that would walk home with each other. And to be honest, me and my best friend Shorty, our house was actually the closest, but we would like walk all the way. We had a friend named Angel. She was the only girl in the group. We would drop Angel off at first, and then it was our homeboy Vincent. Then, so from like in a 3-block radius, it would be my friend Dion, me, and Shorty. Like we lived the 3 adjacent blocks to each other. So by the time that me and Shorty Dion was on his porch. By the time that me and Shorty had got to the top of my block, this is when it all happened. Like, and it happened like in the blink of an eye. Like, so like just to see that, I think both of those like traumatized me. Like, so I was just like, I had already been through this one traumatic experience. And then I think that's probably like what really caused me to like have anxiety attacks and like freak out, because I'm like starting to think to myself, like, I'm a young black man, and this is what happens to young black men. Whether they're good or they're bad, this is what happens.
How did the piece about your dad get added to that, all of that anxiety, and what can you talk? I mean, to whatever, because what I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. Are you cool, bro? Right now?
Yeah. Okay. I'm an empath as well, man. I feel everything.
Cause for you to spend as much time as you did at your grandmother's house, mm-hmm. and then to eventually and to experience the things that you did with your pops, and then even with David or Daniel, the guy who the friend, the drug dealer who got killed. Dwayne. Mm-hmm. Was going back to your mom's crib, like, what did that mean something to you more than just like changing addresses? I'm asking because
to be honest with you, I was pissed. I love my mother. Like, I adore my mother. Like she's one of the most amazing people that I know. Like we have our issues, of course, because that's what mother and children do. Yeah. Or whatever. I'm the only child, so her expectation of me There is nobody else to have an expectation for.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So
Singular focus.
yeah. So
you were pissed.
I was pissed. I'm gonna be honest. Like, my grandparents are older people. Like, there's like, bear in mind, like my grandfather is a disciplinarian or whatever, but I'm just like, to a certain extent, it was a gift and a curse living with my grandparents or whatever, because they probably gave me too much leniency or whatever, because they just knew what I was dealing with. And sometimes trying to give a child everything is too much.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
We can take advantage of that.
You take advantage of that. Yeah. And like your grandparents, they're like, oh, it's my baby, whatever. And I'm like, literally, my mother has 2 sisters. I'm literally one of 2 grandchildren. It was just, and I was the only child and the only grandchild for 12 years. I was immensely spoiled. Like, my grandmother and grandfather used to like go tooth and nail with each other, because once my aunt, my mother's younger sister, had her son, or whatever, who I said I'm 12 years older than, they would like buy him Jordans and stuff. Now bear in mind, I'm like 13, 14 years old. So I'm wearing grown man Jordans. We talking about baby Jordans. And my grandmother would be like mad. I mean, I would be like, well, how he get Jordans? And you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just easy for me to finesse them to a certain extent. So, and I'm like, I had like a level of freedom that I knew I wasn't gonna have in my mom's house or whatever, which actually I kind of did, because my mother worked 2 jobs. So like, when she got off work, she would come home. And actually my 12th grade year, I ain't gonna lie, I was just doing so bad in school that I had to go to night school for my 12th grade year. So I would like literally drop her off at work, at her part-time job, and then go to night school. So I'm like, I did have a lot of leniency because she was always working. But I'm just like, it pissed me off, because I'm just like, even though there was this ability to like have, and all my friends, like, I don't have no friends over here. I didn't know anybody over there. I had a cousin that lives a few apartments down, but like, she's a little bit older than me, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she had a family, like, we're not kicking it. I'm like, I done lost all my friends or whatever. So so like, I was pissed. I was just like, and my grandfather has always been my safe haven, like my mother's father.
He was that male.
Yes, he was my dad, to be honest. Like, yes, my father exists or whatever, but I'm like, who taught me how to shave? Who taught me how to tie a tie? Who told me what like protecting and providing looks like? You know, anything, even at this, like, I'll go, like, all right, so like last weekend, like when I get my kids, they're like, are we gonna go see Papa? They don't care, like.
He's still alive?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Shout out.
He's my last living grandparent.
What's his name?
Charles Moore.
Mr. Charles.
Yes, sir, that's my guy. He will.
I wanna add something real quick.
Go ahead.
I wanna make sure, this is kind of like what I get.
Mm-hmm.
I was completely unaware of the fact of how young my mother was when she had me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the responsibility, a lot of the burdens, a lot of the problem-solving skills that in my adult mind, I was assuming she should have had, wasn't really.
What's your age difference?
She was 22.
My mother's 18 years older than me.
So, and that's where I'm going, because in spite of, when you're having children at this young age, you're doing the best that you can. And as you were telling the story, and I wanted to make sure that I'm mindful and respectful of the fact that even that the space leaves room for the fact that these are
Most certainly. They were young people.
people doing the best that they can, and the reliance on the grandparents isn't unique. It's something that happened across, a lot of the, people I know. So
very much so.
Doing the best that you can at 18, 19, 21, is, salute to the moms for persevering,
Yes.
for figuring it out to the degree that they were able to, because, we're here as men,
Yes.
we doing well, we getting better and all of that shit. So
Very much so. I'm glad you said that though, because it escapes my mind from time to time how young they were. She was 18, my father was 19, so.
That's huge, man.
Yeah, very. Like, it's like, let me see, yeah, so like when I got to be the age that, like, and I don't even know if I've ever even really said this, but like, all I kept saying to myself, literally after my father passed away, was like, I gotta at least make it to the age that he passed away at. So I was just like, me getting to that age was like so pivotal to me. I'm like, yo, I at least gotta make it to that. And then I'll figure it out once I get past that. So I was just literally going year by year, like, okay, I done made it. I done made it again, or whatever. And when I actually got to his age, which was 35 when he passed away, like, I was freaked out, like, oh my God, like I made it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I got room to do, more and more and more, or whatever.
You had that in your head for that age, 35?
Yeah. Because I just knew where my father was, like, at that age, like what he was dealing with and what, you know what I'm saying? Not to say that I've done leaps and bounds above what he's done or whatever, even at this age or whatever, but I was just like, at that point in time, I was just like, yo, I'm looking at my grandfathers or whatever, and I'm just like, I really had to just get out of this space because I was losing a lot of friends. A lot of stuff was going on, and I was just like, yo, this, because at first I was just like, oh, I was looking at it from a perspective that like so many black men were dying, and the reason that my grandfather and them were the age that they were, because crack and all of these things didn't exist. Then as I started to get older, I'm like, no, they had heroin, and white people was killing black people, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a different time. So I'm like, I had to get out of the space of thinking that they didn't have their troubles. You know what I'm saying? Like, each generation is gonna have their troubles. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember my grandfather used to call rap suicide music. He's like, you already listen to that? Because he would take me to like jazz shows and stuff like that. And he'd be like, he listens to this suicide music. And then as we got older, not just him, but myself as well, and I like really started to like let him hear, the positive music, the PE, the X Clan or whatever. And it's like, no, it's just not about that or whatever.
Right.
Like, now he loves rap music, so.
Has your perspective of your pop changed as you've gotten older?
Yeah, most definitely or whatever. Like, because of course you start out with resentment. You're just like, I don't understand, I don't get it, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm just like, when it comes to grief, my belief is that you never get over it. You just learn how to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because, like, you have all these memories that live in your head, whether good or bad, or whatever, that are with you until you're no longer here, or whatever. So it's like, yes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I realized that, for one, not to downplay him, that for every Superman, there's a Kryptonite. You know what I'm saying? And like, that was something that I had to like internalize, because I'm like, we all have our own personal demons or what it is that we deal with and how we deal with it or whatever. Like, there's something that will tear all of us apart. or whatever. Just like how you were saying with drinking, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you do not, you know, one of my favorite quotes is, and again, I don't know if I made this up on that. I don't think I've heard it from anybody else, but if you don't address your traumas will address you. And that's just really how I feel. So it's like, just, you know, trying to live in a space of every day, you know what I'm saying? Like, just taking the time to figure it out piece by piece of what you can fix, because you can't fix it all or whatever. And there's so many contributing factors outside of yourself that you have no control over. So yes, I just realized that he didn't know how to, you know, he was younger than I assumed him to be. He was, as smart as he was, he was a lot less mature than I thought he was, or whatever. And there are things that probably happened to him that I have no idea about.
No idea.
Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, these are things that we just don't know.
Did you ever, and a part of the resentment, you mentioned resentment, is that's to how it went down? Is that the resentment you're referring to?
Yes, because first of all, I just want to say this, and I hope whoever is listening, that they will realize that when it comes to everybody, I want to specify children, but everybody, like, really be cognizant of like how you speak to people. Like, we continuously talk about words and, like, you know, the power of the tongue and, you know, what it brings to light or whatever. But like, when my father committed suicide 2 days after I graduated from high school. Graduated on a Friday. That was the last time I saw my father. I want to say I graduated the 6th of June, and I believe he killed himself the 8th of June. No, I think I graduated the 5th, and he killed himself the 7th of June. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Words. Careful how you speak to people.
Yes. So when he passed away, when you asked me about the resentment question, yes, I resented how he left because of the fact of my father was a super duper spiritual person or whatever. And not to get off topic, in him passing and a little bit before that, when I used to go visit him in jail, I was thinking about, I'm moving so far back, but that's probably another reason that I write. I found out while my father was in prison that he wrote poetry. I never knew. Like, all the years, even the years that he knew that I was writing, I never knew that he wrote poetry until I went to visit him, and he was like, had this composition book, and I was like, oh, what's that? Like, I'm playing with him, like, what, you writing rhymes? You here writing rhymes? And he's like, nah, you know, I just be writing or whatever. And I read a lot of it. And I actually wish I knew where it was, but I actually wrote him a whole, it was probably some of the best work that I have written. I wrote him a whole book of poetry and took it to him when he was in jail or whatever, just to let him know, like, oh, I'm doing what you're doing, just to, you know, keep his spirits in a good space. But anyway, my father was very spiritual, whatever. Like, it's eerie for me to say this, but when my father killed himself, he did it in a way like the police, the coroner, like, my father was a very calculated person. Like, there was nothing to clean up. The way that my father killed himself, like, he left he was just that meticulous about things that, like, they was just like, this is probably the easiest, it's weird to say this, but it's like, this is probably the easiest crime scene that we've ever had to, like, deal with, because, like, he did it in a way that there was no mess. There was, like, my grandmother, so that's the sad part about it. Another sad part about it, my grandmother found him, or whatever. He was living with my grandparents. My grandparents were gamblers. They had went to the casino, they came back, and my grandmother came upstairs and found him.
In their home.
In their home. So that was another thing that was extremely traumatic for me or whatever. And like my family didn't understand. They just thought I didn't want to be around. But it was just hard for me to walk in the house. Like for the longest time, I could not walk in the house.
And
Like,
nobody could connect the dots on that, bro?
I don't know. Like me and my so like that's the thing. Me and my father's side of the family have always had to connect/disconnect or whatever. For whatever different reasons that I won't even expound on or whatever, because I don't want people, whatever. Like I've had certain conversations and certain talks with some of them, so some of them know or whatever. But there was just like this disconnect.
But you mentioned the resentment thing real quick.
Yeah,
because
I'm
I
sorry.
know
Oh, the resentment thing was the fact that, thank you for getting me back there. The resentment thing was, my father was a very spiritual person. I remember him telling me and my mother when Phyllis Hyman killed herself, he was like, yo, that's something that you don't come back from. And like, that's, like God doesn't forgive you for that. So I'm like, when it happened, it was like I almost couldn't believe it, because I'm just like, what space or what level or what demons were you fighting? Like, what was going on? There's something that you told me I should never even attempt to think about. It's something that you did. So like, that was my resentment for a long time, because I'm just like I said, it took me a long time to like even fathom that it really happened, because I'm just like, he was so against it. Like he was just so, and like, not to go off subject, but it's funny because literally my son has no idea, because he was, by the time they were born, he had been gone. The first album that my son ever picked out to listen to is my father's favorite album, which is a Phyllis Hyman album.
out of all of the damn,
It freaked me out, like out of all the albums that I have. And it wasn't like it was sticking out. I had never even listened to it myself. I mean, like I've heard the music or whatever, but I'm like, I had never listened to that record. I had never pulled that record out. And I was like, pick a record, and pulls it out.
does he know how his grandfather passed?
No, my daughter's probably the only one that knows.
The 17-year-old.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she's probably the only one that knows.
When did you? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Bro, this shit sounds heavy.
Oh, it is,
And
man. It's extremely heavy.
How did you take that with you, man? Afterwards, all of that. What did you carrying that around look like?
A lot.
A lie?
A lot.
A lot.
A
Okay.
lot. I mean, even today. I mean, like, even at this point, I know it still affects me. Like, I'm like consistently trying to better myself or whatever. Like, and in all honesty or whatever, like, I'm not blaming him for this at all or whatever. Because I'm just like, I look at life as a culmination of all these things that have happened, whether good or bad. And in that space, because like, I hear people say all the time that the things that happened to you as a child, you had no control over. But as an adult, it's your job to take control over those things. Like to try to fix those things and try to mend those things, try to figure those things out. So, like I'm gonna be honest, like I have never reached my full potential of anything that I could have done, because I've lived I'll be honest, like, and nobody knows this about me. I ain't gonna say nobody knows about me. I feel like people figure it out from time to time or whatever. But like, it's just so much that people see in me that I don't see in myself or whatever. And it's like, I'm trying to like pull that out of me or whatever. And I feel like, I literally remember the day, after my father's funeral or whatever, you're in the house with everybody or whatever, and you know, everybody's grieving and mourning, and now it's kind of got to a point where now we're celebrating life and everybody's starting to talk, and you're kind of getting away from that space, at least temporarily. And I remember going out back on my grandfather's porch or whatever, standing at the top of the porch, and I was just like having this conversation with my dad. You know what I'm saying? To myself, I'm like, damn, bruh, like, I didn't see this. I didn't know that this is what we were coming to. I didn't even know that you were in this space or whatever. Cause you know, as cool as you think you are with your parents or whoever, you know what I'm saying? Just like when you was having a conversation with life, you were trying to figure out what was going on. But I'm like, a lot of times they don't even know what's going on. So it's hard to tell you what's going on. I don't even know what's going on. And I just really remember having this conversation with basically just outside, literally talking out loud to my father, you know, in his absence, but just like, bruh, like, how did we get to this point? Like, you know what I'm saying? What got you here? You know, because you also live in a space of what could I have done? You know what I'm saying? My mother, and I think that is the thing when I say my mother feels the way that she feels. Because literally, my mother, this is probably something that kills her or whatever, or just is really intense for her. I don't know if my father knew that day that he was going to kill himself at my graduation. Possibly. You know what I'm saying? He might have just been like, I'm going to go to this mass graduation and I'm out of here. I want to be here for that. Because I'm like, you know, we don't know or whatever. And like the thing that like hurt my mother so much after the fact, of course, hindsight is 2020, is that my father just wanted us to take a picture together. But she was so mad at my father. She was like, no. And that's all she kept saying. Like when he first, like when it, you know, first all went into fruition and, you know, everything happened, she was like, Jeffrey, he just wanted a picture. Like I couldn't even give him that. Like, and she was like, that day wasn't even about me. That day was about you. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, because you don't live in that space of knowing that this is, you know what I'm saying, God forbid anything happen to you or I don't think this is the last conversation I'm going to have with you. I pray it's not. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just like, also, even if I don't pray it's not, I don't live in a space of thinking negatively, like, or pessimistically, like, this is the last time I'm going to talk to James, God forbid. And a lot of times because we are so comfortable in these spaces, we don't even realize, we take it for granted. It's like, I'm gonna see you tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen, but just in the space of who we are, we're just like, I'm not gonna think negatively about it. So I think that was something that bothered her. And to get back to what I was saying, when I said about words, and I understand it's a different time now. And I understand that the way that we speak to people and the way we live, probably because we're just older, is just different. But what happened is that all of these old black people that I love dearly in my family, you know, great aunts, great uncles, just, you know, elder states, women and men in my family, like, you know, your father's gone to hell, right? Because when you kill yourself, that's where you go. Or whatever. And I knew, and I'm like, I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was just, you know, like, I'm just like, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do with my life right now. I literally just graduated high school 2 days ago, 3 days ago, a week ago. And that's why I say it's, you know, very important and very necessary to speak to children in a certain type of way. Just anybody, whoever you're, you know, who you're talking to, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying to sugarcoat anything or anything like that, but I'm like, just really think about how you speak to people, man.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what people are going through. You know what I'm saying? Like, for every horrible thing that you've been through, somebody else has been through something. You know, when you had I think that was really the episode that like really, really brought me in. Was the episode you had with is her name Christina? That episode was like, it was just so much. And I'm just keeping it honest with you, bro. Like, These people that you've had on here, for the most part, that I could get in touch with, I've got in touch with these people. Like, that's what you're doing. I need you to understand that, because these are people that exist and they have stories and they have things that they've been through that are so relevant and so prevalent in all of our lives. So I'm just like, it's giving a pathway. Like, her and I spoke through DMs or whatever. And,
Thank you for doing that.
you know, her and I have spoken through DMs. I told you, me and Vicky have spoken or whatever. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a necessary thing.
How do you it's hard to imagine your story, man, and to imagine, you know, how to conceive putting pieces together to move forward.
Yeah.
When you're the age that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm imagining you doing that and then picking up pieces, i.e. children, along the way, and having to be responsible for those pieces and managing those, and just adding and adding and adding. And now that you have 5 pieces, in addition to your own personal shit that you have to manage. How do you feel you're doing with that?
Horribly. I'm just being honest. Like, it's like a consistent movement towards being better. Like, there's no perfect parent. It doesn't exist. There's no perfect person. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, it's so much work to be done. Like, this is my daughter's last year of high school, which also brings me to a space of thinking about my dad. Like, you know what I'm saying? When my son graduated from elementary school to middle school, it's the first person I thought about. It's like, you know, even, you know, when I became a father, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are things that you pray that you don't make the same mistakes or whatever. And unfortunately, like, you're going to make mistakes. Like, you can be as perfect as you think you can be. Like, you're going to continue to make mistakes, because I don't care who writes a book. I don't care who makes a movie. I don't care what conversations you have with whoever. Like, it's nothing that you can prepare for. Like, you can do your best, but I'm like, it's an ever-changing thing, because this person is growing and you're still growing. You're still learning yourself every day. We're in our 40s. You know what I'm saying? Like, who we were 2 months ago are not who we are today. So I'm like, 2 days ago, you know? So I'm just like, in an ever-changing flow of trying to figure yourself out. You gotta now realize that you're trying to figure someone else out too. And trying to figure out, how do you fall into the space of not going down the same road, like not have them go down the same road that you went down. And yeah, I'm just figuring out, like, my daughter's mother, she's like, why did she talk to you? Why do you know these things? And I'm just like, because I've just created this, I've tried to create a space where my kids can tell me anything. I don't want them, no, I'm not your friend, I'm your parent, but I don't want you living in the space that I lived in. That was a space that I lived in, that I was just like I have a great aunt, my grandfather's sister. So in my household, it was me, my grandfather, my grandmother, my grandfather's sister, and my grandmother's sister. My grandparents have taken care of his sister and my grandmother's sister since they were like, my grandfather's sister started living with my grandparents when she was like 12 or whatever, because my great grandmother passed away from cancer. And she was living with my other great aunt, my grandfather's other sister, and she had just got married, and my grandparents had just got married, and she was like, I don't want no kid or whatever, like you don't have to take her. So I'm just like, my grandparents have been parents at a very early age when I really think about it. So I'm just like, I'm just trying to make sure that I take away everything possibly good that I've seen from that and do what I can do with it. And hopefully, you know, like, it's hard. It's a hard situation because, like, even with my daughter, like, sometimes when I have to tell her no or whatever. Now, my sons make it a running joke. You tell us no so easily, but you never tell Aaliyah no. Like, you just don't. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just something about daughters. It's like,
I got you.
it's just like, oh, come on, not with that face, not with those eyes and that voice. It's just hard, or whatever. And it's like, I know she's been through a lot. Like she's voiced to me that she's, you know, the things that she's been through or whatever. And then sometimes I feel like the worst person in the world because I'm just like, what could I have done to have, you know, what better parent could I have been to keep you away from that or helped you move along through that process or whatever. And, you know, even with my boys or whatever, like my 12-year-old, like he's extremely, oh man, this dude has like the worst temper in the world, which I'm just gonna blame on his mama because I'm very like chill or whatever. And she's very chill too, so let me not say that, but I'm like, it's both of us. Let me not be that person. Like I am that person, like it takes so much, and it's the same with him. So let me be honest about it, because it takes so much for me to like really be upset. Like for me to like really get, like there are things that just upset me or whatever, like anybody else. But I'm like, you're gonna have to do a whole lot for me to like get out of character or anything that would make me feel like I would lose any of my integrity as a person. Like I tried just not to. There are things that, you know, that you need to be mad about or whatever, but just in even with them, it's like things that I'm upset about, I try to make sure I calm myself down and really hear them out before. I need them to understand, like here's the thing, and this is why I say it's so different about parenting child to child. If I tell my daughter right now, I am disappointed in you, I might as well have shot her. She's just like, oh my God, like what? Like she's distraught by it. I tell my son I'm disappointed in you, he's like, okay. Like, all right, I know you're upset with me. I'll figure it out. Like it's not like the emotional level of it is two different things. I know he's upset that I'm upset with him, or that he's disappointed that I'm upset with him, whatever, but it just looks different. So it's just, you know, managing all these personalities and your own, which is a crazy situation. Because managing yourself is a full-time job.
Yeah. And I think I talk to a lot of the people I know who have kids, man, and one of the things, and just about me even, is like being as a person that has my own idea of who I am. Mm-hmm. It's we're embarking on these journeys. Mm-hmm. To be something that we currently are not. Mm-hmm. So it's like you have a kid, and you have to instill in this kid discipline, responsibility. You have to instill in them these things to internalize. You might not even have them yourself.
That's what I was about to say. These are things that you still try to learn how to exhibit.
Even though the job requires, it's like on the job training, but you at least look, you know what the objective is. And sometimes one of the questions I ask a lot is, what do you want for your kids? And do you have that? And if you ask the question, and when you answer it, what do you want for your kids? And you don't have it for yourself, The objective should be to acquire,
acquire
it or to demonstrate it in some capacity or another.
To implement it some way.
And that's how we get better. In addition to being the example. And it's something that I use, like even in my relationship. It's like you have to be the thing
that you want.
That you want. And so even though you acquire these pieces as you move through life and get older, you're acquiring them as like a goal to attain in a way. And that's the hard part, I feel, because it's like, okay, I've got to demonstrate responsibility. I want my kid to be responsible. So that means I got to be responsible. Shit. Okay, well, let me just go ahead.
Get you away from that practice what you preach.
You
get it right, get you right there.
Get it right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and this is one of the things I talk to my homeboys about, like a lot of dudes I talk to will say that they want their kids to be more open, that they want their kids to share, that they want their kids to be in a position to regulate emotions and those kinds of things. And then I'll ask them, how do you do with it? And they'll be like, man, I suck.
I suck at it.
And I'm like, well, the odds of them doing anything different.
And that's what we need to understand, because your children are just a reflection of who you are.
They are.
Me and Leonard was just having a conversation in the Uber. I'm just keep referencing Mr. Leonard. But like, that's the conversation that we were having. Like, it's just a mirror reflection of you. Like, they're gonna figure themselves out later on, but I'm like, they're literally beholden to like what you do and how you act. It's like, oh, how you gonna tell me don't do this, but you do that? Or whatever. Like, that's how they're looking at it. And like, nobody else will question who you are like a child will.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to, first of all, they don't have a filter. They don't even know what a filter is. So whatever questions they have, whatever they see, whatever, like a lot of times we're just like, oh, that little mother effer's bad. Like, no, they're just inquisitive and they just wanna know what's going on.
Yep.
And they know.
And they calling you out on your shit.
You on your shit. That's exactly what I was about to say. Like, they know. Come on, bruh. Come on, sis. Like, that ain't who you are. Like, because they see you in a space that nobody else sees you in. Like, your mother could be going through something. And she'll tell you, no, baby, I'm all right. But you know you ain't good. Like, something ain't going on, something ain't right. Because I know when you good. It's like people that try to act like they not high. It's like, come on, bruh. Come on. Stop wiping your face. You toe up right now. Like, it's just the space that we live in. So it's just like, I'm consistently trying to figure out how to be better with that.
Are you going to therapy? Or have you gone?
I've been once or twice or whatever. It's something that I need to dive back into. Like, very much so, whatever.
Do you have apprehension?
No. So let me just say this. It's crazy. And I went to therapy recently, and I don't know, like, I was talking to my friends and I'm just like, I don't know if I should feel this way about this or not. I don't know if I should feel, all right, let me explain. I went to therapy, and the story that I just told you or whatever about how I'm dealing with this trauma or whatever and the trauma that I've been through. I don't know if maybe I just didn't look at it the right way. And that's what I'm thinking at this point. That's not what I was thinking at the time in which happened. I'm talking to the therapist and this chick is crying. I'm talking about like crying. I'm like, how you gonna help me? Like, this is how I took it. And like now, as I talk to you and as I've talked to other people, I'm like, yo, this is probably way heavier than I ever assumed it to be. Because I'm like, I don't know if I'm thinking about it every day. I know it still exists in my mind. I know these things still exist. I know there are things that I still deal with or whatever. But as empathetic as I am, I didn't have any empathy because I was just like, you're supposed to be helping me. Like, how are you gonna be? But then when I was talking to my homegirl or whatever, and it's crazy because I really thought about like the people that exist in my life and the similarities. I don't know if it's because of the time that we came up in or what, but I'm like, the similarities that we have on so many levels. Just like you were saying, so many people were raised by their grandparents. I have so many friends who've either had parents that either had alcohol or drug abuse or whatever, that have died violently or whatever. And I mean, I guess it was just the time in which we came up. But just having these conversations is like one of my female best friend or whatever, like, love her to life, amazing person or whatever. But I'm like, our struggles have been so similar. And I'm like, when we talk or whatever, like, cause you know, like you have friends that you just cool with and y'all shoot the shit and y'all kick it. But I'm like, I tell people all the time, like my best friend Paul or whatever, like we have serious conversations. We you know, like we really have deep seated conversations or whatever. But I'm like, me and Leon's relationship is the way that it is because I'm just like, I know when I talk to Leon, like regardless of what I'm saying, it's not gonna be a bad situation. Like he's like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. It's not gonna be. And I'm like, those are the people that you need around you to like kick you, not down but up, and be like, you know, get your shit together, or, you know, get, you know, figure it out or whatever because, you know, you gotta be accountable.
What do you think the purpose of therapy is?
And that's probably why I'm saying it probably didn't work for me because I probably was looking at it in the wrong lenses.
Not, I don't think there's. I mean,
I think it's different for everybody, but
what were you going for?
because here's the thing, and this is basically what I was saying, like when I was speaking in the space of telling people to speak to people a certain type of manner or whatever, with a certain amount of respect and a certain amount of love or whatever works for you. I wanted to go because I started having panic attacks again.
Okay.
Like maybe like 2 years ago or whatever. And I was just like, you know, trying to figure out my life or whatever. And I really think about, when I really thought about what it was, it's when I turned 40. And I was just like, so maybe 3 years ago. And I was just like, as I go through these, I guess in my mind, I'm not really thinking about it, but I'm just like, I guess my body or my thoughts or whatever, are like, this is where we are and what are we doing and how are we becoming better or whatever. Are you doing everything you can do? So it's like, I kind of just like freak myself out. So I was just like, okay. Unfortunately, once you get older, or once you just get into a certain space of maturity, or just understanding of yourself, you're just like, okay, why does this work this way? Or why does this not work? Whether it be a relationship, everything's a relationship, but depending on where it sits in your life, you're just trying to figure out, okay, like I know the biggest reason for me not getting to where I need to be is me. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? It's my fear of whatever. Like, and I was having a conversation with my best friend and I was telling him, I'm like, yo, it took a very long time for me to understand that like relationship wise, if it fails, it's just not me. Like we live in a space that like nobody likes to fail, but I take failure so personally. Like, I mean, I don't think nobody does it, but from the perspective that I have not tried because of my fear of failing. So it's like now I'm like, okay, I need to figure this out because it's in my way. It's the brick wall in front of me, and I got to figure out how to chip away at this motherfucker one way or another because it is killing me. Like if I don't figure it out, my relationship with my kids don't get better. I'm not going to be in a successful career or relationship or whatever if I don't get this out of the way. Because I'm like, everything that's important to me is on the other side of that wall. And if I don't either learn how to climb over this motherfucker or figure it out, like, what am I existing for? And I'm not saying I want to leave. I'm not saying, I want to be here. So let me make that very much clear.
Understood.
But I'm just like, when you ask me in the space of how am I as a father and I'm like, in order for me to be the best that I can be at all of these things, even though I can only move and circulate in one part of it at a time, like until I fix that, and maybe therapy's a piece of that, maybe a little bit more reading, maybe a little bit more interacting with just different things. if I don't put something in place, like how am I going to fix it? So that's like, I didn't think that it was an overall fix for me, but I'm like, at least it gives me a surface level of figuring out what's going on. You know what I'm saying? It might not be the medicine for the disease, but I'm like, at least it might be a piece of it.
You know, a lot of it I think is about acquiring tools, man. And the way we are raised and our experiences, human beings are very resilient. We know how to survive. And the tools that we develop over life to survive are meant to be used temporarily in a lot of cases. And sometimes it's because we're pattern repeaters. Once we find something that works, we'll continue to use it, even if it wasn't designed for like long term.
It was for a season.
Like, yeah, I got to get out of this hole, but once I get out of this hole, let me go do something else. And so, you know, one of the things that I think that I did is I started to identify as a reflection of the experiences that I were having. They actually became synonymous. It's not just that I had that situation. I had that situation because of me.
Right.
And I couldn't separate the two moving forward. So then it just became the same thing. And therapy for me was a process of separating the two so that I could look across and see them as separate things and recognize that, you know, a lot of what's happening to me is not me. And once I was able to separate them and see myself as a singular individual, as a person who's loving, as a person who is deserving of all of the things that I say that I want out of life, and that bad thing, what I call bad or whatever, was separate, I was able to give myself a break. You haven't stated, you've said a couple of things. One is that you didn't feel you reached your highest potential, and that you're holding yourself back and you're trying to be better. You're doing a lot of things right too, and that has to be a part of the voice in the analysis. You know, and sometimes the deficiency, the parts where we are lacking, I feel, overshadow that and take precedence over all of the things that we're actually doing right and getting right and have figured out.
It's like I look at it like the space of when you read 100 comments and you see one bad one. It's like that one bad one precedes all the good things that you've seen.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Has this been therapy for you? A form of therapy for you?
Oh, 100%, bro. It's when we decided to put up cameras and talk, I had no fucking clue that I was going to discover me and learn about me. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so focused on listening now, because because it's therapeutic for me to connect with another human being so that I can feel what they're feeling, because I do see a beautiful human across from me. I do see a good person. I do see, someone who's resilient, who's doing things right, who's trying, and all of those. And when I connect with those parts of you, I'm also connecting with those parts of myself. And it's hard for me to connect with those parts of myself when I'm just by myself. And I didn't know that doing that would help me reflect me, because the voice that's up here can be loud, bro. It can
Deafening.
be deafening.
Definitely.
And if you don't have the tools, or if you don't have a process or a pattern built into your life that reminds you, you can start feeling like I ain't shit and I ain't gonna never be shit, like quickly. So it's every time I do this is therapeutic for me.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the beauty of it to me is when I'm watching these episodes. Let me not say episode. I don't like that word. I mean, it is, but when I'm watching these conversations, because that's more of it. What it is to me, it's just a needed conversation or whatever. So and what I was saying earlier, as into when you made the statement again, that I might give to you today what you give to me tomorrow. I've also had to realize in a space for myself, because my friends always say this to me, and my family always say, they're like, are you giving yourself that? You know what I'm saying? You really have to sit in that space and think to yourself, like, hey, am I, like, my friends like, yeah, you go hard. You go hard for our friendship. You go hard for this. Are you going that hard for yourself? You know what I'm saying? Like, and the grace that you give these people, are you giving yourself that grace? You know what I'm saying? Because
the path is the same path. The grace that you extend to somebody else. Now, what has helped me is to discern between.
I love that word.
The intention, because sometimes what's grace is manipulation masked.
Yeah.
So I'm not extending you real grace. I'm actually trying to get something from you, and I'm using this as a mechanism. That will also be reflected back to you too. Who gives a fuck what you call it? It's the intention, that is being reflected back. So if you are genuinely extending grace, if you're genuinely extending like love and these things that folks are seeing, because they're seeing it in you too. When they look at you,
right.
then that path is the same path. But you got to make sure, not got to, but it's helpful. It's the tool that I use, and because I didn't have a method to see me in the beauty in the world.
Right.
I didn't have a way of seeing it in, and now, and I say that kind of stuff a lot, man, because it is something that has helped with like these forms of like depression and anxiety. I don't have it all figured out. I'm still scared as a motherfucker, bro. I'm still insecure.
And
I'm
I mean,
still
you see
doubtful.
Yeah, you see it every day. I'm talking about outside of yourself.
Yeah.
All this stuff that's going on, like, you're just like, they're like, oh, this person's bad, this person's this person's that. Like, what are they dealing with? What are they dealing with? Like, I'm not trying to take away whatever it is that they're doing, because it's wrong at the end of the day. And at some point in time, you know when you're doing wrong. But do you know how to stop doing wrong? Is the question. Do you know how to move into a space of good or whatever? Like, I was having a conversation today, Saturday. I was having a conversation Thursday. I was at a bar, eating some food, and these two guys were sitting to the left of me. And we were talking about, I don't know if you heard that, like, the Metro Transit shot this guy at Anacostia Station Thursday. and they were saying that they were circulator bus drivers, the two guys that were sitting beside me, and they was like, is their coworker who this guy was on the bus with or whatever, who the guy that got shot was on the bus. So they asked him to get off the bus because he had a gun or whatever. So I guess when transit police, you know, apparently from what I was told, they asked him numerous times to put the gun down, and he wouldn't. So they shot him. I don't think he died, but I don't believe that he died. But I'm just like, when they were saying, oh, that motherfucker crazy, that motherfucker whatever, and I'm just like, what was he going through?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take away from what he was doing or the lack that he was doing something incorrect. What was this person going through? Because I'm just like, I don't like. Was it said on your show? I'm trying to remember where I heard this. I'm trying to remember where I heard this phrase. I'm trying to remember if it was on here, but the phrase is that that suicide is inward homicide, and
that sounds familiar. Yeah.
suicide is inward homicide, and homicide is outward suicide. So it's like these young boys is killing each other, or really just killing a reflection of themselves, or the demons that they dealing with. So it's like I'm so mad at myself. I'm so scared what's going on in the world, but I'm scared to hurt myself, so I'm gonna hurt you. Or I'm doing something to myself because I'm scared that I'm gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, so I'm just like, it's just like, how do we get to a place of figuring it out? So I just felt like maybe that's what I needed therapy for. Just a small piece to just figure out an ever expanding thing that's going on.
Is there any help you need with that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a good space to go to or find somebody that I'm comfortable with. And just being honest with myself. Like, it's crazy that, there's a song that Eric Roberson has where he says, I can't talk to you about you. And I'm like, that could either go one or two. Either that could be me saying that to you, or that can be me saying that to me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's real. Like, my biggest relationship is myself. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I have these children, or mom, I have family, friends, or whatever, but I'm like, the relationship that I need to work on the most to be influential and to be positive in these other relationships is the relationship I had with myself. So.
And we don't hear, increasing the awareness of watching men acknowledge certain parts about, that kind of stuff, man. It gives other people permission, man. It's huge. Mm-hmm. We hear all the time about how important representation is. Mm-hmm. We talk all the time about, oh, I didn't know I could do it until I saw a black girl become, I saw a black man, or da-da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. We understand the value of examples. Mm-hmm. And we need the example of strong black men talking about
unapologetically
about this, and that it not be like a sign
of weakness
at all. I mean, you, dude, are one of probably 4 or 5 people who've sent me a DM about their parent committing suicide. I would have never known about from these people. One found their father, and you see them out and you see them moving and you talk about like how all of this stuff happens, and just because you have a couple kids and just because you get a certain age, you're supposed to have all of this shit figured out and ready-made and looking good and popping and that ain't motherfuckers is struggling. That's precisely the reason why some of the parents may have even chosen to make the decision that they made, because they felt that there wasn't a lot of, support and shit like that. So,
and from the perspective of, you don't want to be a burden to anybody. You feel like these conversations that I've had with people who have been suicidal, and it's just like, I don't want to be bothersome anymore. I can't figure out what I need to do. And I'm pretty sure that's what my father, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm pretty sure that my father was like, I have this drug problem, and no matter what it is that I do, I can't seem to get over it. I done stole from my mama and them, my ex-wife, you know what I'm saying, nieces, nephews, family members. Like, I don't want to be a burden no more. So guess what? If I'm not here, you ain't got to worry about me no more. And I'm like, that's it's a very hard place to look at, because you just like, damn, I hope they wasn't thinking that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You wish that they wasn't thinking that or whatever. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you're in your mind trying to figure out, like, what could I have said, what could I have done or whatever, blah, 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 whatever. But I'm just like, like, that's why they always say, check on your strongest friends.
But when you don't see people acknowledging, and that was one of the things I was trying to get to before. I don't have it figured out.
No, none of us do.
Despite how it appears, just to let somebody know, I think about all of the wild shit that a motherfucker could do to make the pain go away.
But it's temporary.
That's a part of the solution. Everything's on the table depending on how long the problem is a problem, right? So it's just, what do you do at certain points? But acknowledging that is a part of the life, and then still choosing life makes other people who feel like choosing life is the only option. At least when you can look across and say, oh, somebody is choosing life and still feeling like not, as an example. And, oh, okay, so you can still be frustrated, you can still have shit not figured all the way out, you can still be insecure, you can still have these dark moments and do all of that kind of stuff, and then you can still fail often. You could do all of that and still choose life. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
My grandfather, he'd be like, man, the minute that you tell me you figure it out, it's over.
It's over.
It's over. He'll be 89 this year. And he's, you know what I'm saying? He's just like, man, he's just like, I'm still figuring it out. I'm like, dang, at 88 years old, he's like, when do you stop figuring it out? When you close your eyes for the last time. That's when there's no more figuring it out.
Dude, if you look at the logo, there's a space that is at the bottom of that logo that is intended. That was intentional. Okay. And it is there to represent that it's never complete, bro. You never have it figured out. As close as you think you get, as close as that line is to that bottom tuning fork thing, to make it complete. To live means to constantly have that space. So, which means that there's doubt, there's unknown, there's this sense of lacking that we have to contend with as being human. That's just a part of the human experience. That doesn't go away until you out of here. And I wanted to remind myself.
And honestly, it still lives. Because it lives with whatever's behind.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's a good point.
Marvin's one of your favorites. He been gone. Whatever he put on that wax or whatever he put on that tape, it still lives and it still lives. And
he helps you, and he helps me.
And you think about all the traumas that he had. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you're just like, oh, this is one of my favorite artists of all time or whatever. And I'm like, that music is what that music is because of his traumas, because of his demons, because of the things that he's been through.
Because of not having it
Marriage,
figured out.
divorce, children, society. So who's not going through it?
And there's beauty, and so a point comes that you start to see beauty in it. And that is where I'm at in my life, is I'm actually starting to see beauty, to use my homegirl's friend, to use my homegirl saying, there's beauty in the mud. And the very thing that I was running away from, the very thing that I was avoiding is actually the most beautiful fucking parts of who I am as a man. And the most, and the things that I tap into to be the most contributory to my circle of people. And without that, I wouldn't be the mechanism that I am. Without the pain that Marvin suffered, he wouldn't have them songs. So you find a way to restructure like the perspective of it, which lessens the stress and the criticism and like the negativity that we direct towards looking at those moments in our lives. To see it as more like love, like genuine love, bro. That I couldn't see before. But it's there.
It's all around you.